Peace and love, you beautiful wonders of the spiritual level of being. Nathan here from the spiritual level of being, and you have a spiritual level of being. Today, a walking, talking philosophy out in the rain. We're going to be discussing why we practice Gnosis. Now, the years of my life, constant mess-ups, slip-ups, the ignorance of self, not knowing who I was, trying to search for who I really was, thinking what was wrong with this world, which led me back to myself. Now, this is why we practice Gnosis. Gnosticism teaches us to find our authentic self, to truly discover who we are. Now, this in turn is what led me to the self-discovery of who I was, that I continue to better myself, as Gnosticism teaches us to always progress ourselves, to search for knowledge, to search for the mysteries within us, the spiritual knowledge within us, to find our connection to God, to live it. Now, it's also living experience. Now, living knowledge that you can use in your life, otherwise it's useless knowledge, it's dead knowledge if you can't engage it and live it. Now, what we refer to as the archons, the material rulers, the demiurge, this can also be symbolic towards our lower self. Now, we find the names of the archons often referring to as lust. Now, even ignorance. This is concepts of our archetypes of our lower self. Sometimes you'll find archons being named love, which is our higher self. Now, this in turn means we're ruled over by archons, by our lower level selves, our higher level selves. We see societies, material rulers that rule over different societies. The material influence, the influence of our desires, people do not control them, cannot control them. They have trouble. This is why we have the problems in the world, why we have government, because people cannot control their thoughts, they cannot control their mind. Now, what we see today as tax revenue in the old days of old was tribute. Now, we see certain companies give a gift to the government that will give them sponsorship. Now, the Romans would use the term gift in order to take away the term bribe, as a bribe was illegal. So we still have these same concepts. Now, these concepts of the lower self, of these old influence of the material rulers of old, have continued on in the practices of today. Now, when we look within, we truly can not just see but feel the connection we have to this earth, to the universe, to all life here on this planet, with each other. We live in amongst each other's lives. So ultimately, doing harm to someone else is doing harm to yourself. So when you love yourself, you're able to reflect this and give good fruit. So give good things to others. So this is why Gnosticism teaches us to discover the authentic self, to discover our inner goodness within us. They teach that God is good, is only good. And this inner goodness within us is our connection to God, it's our divine spark. So we're all divine, we're all gods. Now, this meaning that we are all one with God, that we all have a personal relationship with God, that God is the experience that is all around us. Now, this also means heaven, so a state of mind. So this planet can either be hell or heaven. It's choosing what we make of it. So we need to do the inner work, obviously, as a collective whole, not just singly, as a collective whole, in order for us collectively to return to the Brahma, heaven, to make this earth a heaven. Now, the ones who are the light bringers of this world set the stepping stones in order for humanity to wake up, which has already been set in motion. Since the beginning of spirituality, we have evolved. Now, this being said, we've had our flaws, we've had our slip-ups, as this spiritual knowledge was ultimately suppressed and hidden by the ruling elites. Now, this was also done on purposely when the world started speaking Latin under the Roman Empire, not the whole world obviously, but they were removing the Greek text and making them into Latin, so removing these deeper esoteric meanings. Now, the Greeks were known for their philosophy, so they would often engage in this, but it doesn't mean that the society as a whole would reflect on this, as some would see them as crazy old wise men. Now, some philosophers were crazy. They would constantly push the boundaries of what we consider the social conditions. So they would detach themselves from this in order to find their true authentic self. Now, Greece, that was attributed to inventing what we now see as the government, as they had voting, but you could only be a citizen and vote. You had to be a freed man, you had to have served in the military for so long. But there were people who at the time wanted females to vote, and they wanted everyone to be able to vote that lived in their city, which would have been very advanced for its time, but it didn't happen. Now, this is because, again, someone set the stepping stones which led to now, where we have much more of an equal government. Though it's not perfect, it still needs to do the work. So this is where we come together collectively, which is why things change, is why you see so much division, as they also know this, the ones in charge. Otherwise, they would lose their power overnight, basically. So we have this division of a lower society and a higher society, which also is afflicted on ourselves when we see the lower level self and higher level of self. So again, this is what we've taken out of this spiritual concept and made it into a material concept. Now, this knowledge all lies within us. It's like mathematics. We didn't invent it, we discovered it. We see geometrical patterns all around us in life, our fingertips, that look like the universes, or the galaxies I should say, sorry. The tree leaves, the markings look like our veins. We see these patterns, and here in life, as all things on Earth is connected, we all share a similar DNA, as we've all evolved on this planet. So all life is connected. We also see the geometrical patterns here on Earth that are reflected in the universe as it is a product of the universe, as we are a product of Mother Nature. So we see this sense of this world being a mathematical frequency domain. So again, this being a mind reality. So you're not a body, you're a soul, you're a mind, you're an eternal mind. So we here are the universe experiencing itself in order to have the ultimate experience. So that way we can develop ourselves and grow. So the soul seeking high levels of experience. We are God experiencing ourselves. Though in this physical reality, we are separate from our true authentic self, which is the spiritual self. Though we have the concept of it, though we're limited in this material domain. So this is why people struggle, as they're used to this domain, as we have always existed. We're used to a domain of thought, frequency, vibration, energy. So by this existence, we are materially limited. So the soul seeks higher levels of experiences in order to evolve, in order to return to the source, as all life returns to the source. You can't destroy energy, it can only be transferred. So we even see it in water becoming liquid, solids and gases. Like everything around us is liquid, solids and gases, matter and stuff, still returning to its source. So life is infinite, just as your soul is infinite. Your body belongs to this earth, but your soul belongs to the universe. So when we practice Gnosis, we are constantly engaging in high levels of experiences, more meaningful experiences with the authentic self and more authentic relationships with others. Now, one reason why we choose to practice Gnosis is because it shows there's something greater we can achieve. We can become like Christ, we can become like Buddha, Buddha like ourselves, Christ like ourselves. So the best version of us that we can possibly be. So setting in actions or chain reactions of love that affects not just yourself but others. Now, Gnosticism were the first ominist. They were first ones that would collectively gather the spiritual knowledge of all faiths. And this is before Christianity. They did this in the ancient times of the ancient Hermetic past. In ancient Egypt, we had societies forming that were a mixture of Jews and Egyptians and Greeks that would form their own inner Gnostic circles. Though they weren't called Gnostics, they were called ones in the pursuit of esoteric knowledge, ones in the know. Now, this term would either be implanted into Christianity, where you would see Christians in the know, good Christians, Christians in the pursuit of spiritual knowledge, Christians in the pursuit of esoteric knowledge. So this here was implanted through these old memories. Now, we still have oral traditions that are passed on to this day, as before anything was written on paper, it was oral tradition. So when we seek to understand the Gnosis within ourselves, we understand the symbolic meaning behind these stories that we read, these stories that we encounter that are of oral tradition. So thank you for joining me for this walking, talking philosophy. I wish you all a lovely day, a lovely night, many blessings. Connect to one, mind and soul. Namaste.